Before you watch this video, please make sure you have watched the previous guide to this mod. I will link it in the description. And yeah, let's get started. Okay, so welcome back to the Blitzkrieg guide. This is only gonna talk about the new features since last time, which was the release 1.0. Now we're on version 1.6, recently came out, and there's been a lot of new features that I want to talk about. And I'm just gonna show you, most of this is in the options menu. A lot of new customization stuff that I added. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about that has changed is this option right here, disable instant respawn. When this option didn't exist, when you died, you would immediately respawn like that. And some people didn't like that, so I added this option where you can disable this, and when you die, it will play the death animation and then respawn you. Feels a little bit more natural. Then if you want to go for full clear goldens, I added this reset berries option right here, which is pretty self-explanatory. It resets the berries on death, which basically just means you can practice getting the berries and they won't disappear forever. We've also had a big update to the text overlay, which now has an option to hide the text overlay during golden runs. You can also change the position of the overlay, like this. This option right here, text update rate, is an interesting one. I added this for performance reasons, because basically what I used to do was update the text overlay every frame, and there are some calculations that I run with each update, and they can slow the game down if they're done so often. So instead you now can choose how many times it updates. For example, here it updates every 20 frames. I think that's more than enough. You can increase the value, lower the value, however you like. There are also some new keybinds that have been added. This option, which is by default numpad key 2, temporarily pauses the death reset. This is pretty useful if you just want to practice real quick without being reset every death. The switch core mode key, which is by default the numpad 8 key, will allow you to switch core mode whenever needed. This is very useful for core levels. You can also spawn in a key with numpad key 7 and remove every key you have with numpad key 9. Useful if you have key blocks in the way that you don't currently have the key for. Of course, with all of these key points you also have the corresponding ones in the extra buttons. We also have this new section, run management. This one's an interesting one. You can basically manage the runs you currently have. You can complete the current run, reset the last completed run. These basically just allow you to edit your run progress. You can switch the recommended run. This has been requested a bunch. Basically just cycles through the runs that get recommended. You can skip the current stage, reset the stage progress, also self-explanatory. Now into some interesting developments that I've made. You can see in the text overlay there's this section, checkpoint consistency. This basically tells you how consistent the section you are currently in is. With that, I also added these two sections you can enable in the text overlay. You can toggle these on and off. There's playtime estimate and death estimate. How this works is I basically used a lot of data that I've collected from Geometry Dash, because there's a GD Blitzkrieg mod, and in the GD Blitzkrieg mod I have always looked at my stats and found out that playtime usually stays the same for each stage, while death count decreases a little with each stage. And you can make some pretty interesting estimates with that. For example, playtime estimate should always be really accurate, and for death estimate you can adjust this setting right here, the improvement factor. This basically just means by how much your deaths decrease each stage. For example, 90, this stands for 90%, so each stage will take 90% of the deaths of the last stage. You can just adjust this. If your map is really hard for you, you might want to get this closer to 100. If it's too easy for you, you might lower it. Just adjust it that the death estimate is accurate. You can also adjust this option right here, the consistency calculation run count. This basically just means how many runs are considered for your checkpoint consistency. For example, the default is 100, which means it looks at the last 100 times you've been to a checkpoint and uses those runs to calculate your consistency. Now for the last addition, we have this one right here. This is a cool little Easter egg I added and spent way too much time on. Basically what this does, and I don't want to go into too much detail how I do this, but it basically tells you when you're mind blocked on a specific checkpoint, if you're really inconsistent at a checkpoint and this is a choke point for you. So it basically tells you when you should practice certain sections and when you should just take a break. And that's basically it with the new features. Have fun, everyone.